Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to this conference, and I'm delighted to be a part of the Future Tech event. Today, I'll be speaking on biometric payments in India, our experience in social benefit transfers. Biometric payments are increasing globally, with China and India leading this enterprise. Globally, the biometric payments are being pushed by card companies, banks, technology companies, and other smaller entities. But in India, this was a byproduct of social delivery programs where we thought of an end-to-end system using identity and using the same identity artifact or device for using benefit delivery to the beneficiary. Now, again, the trend world over is facial recognition technologies being preferred by customers. But in India, due to legacy systems were installed, fingerprints are the dominant form of authentication. And various studies now have shown that this is a growth market with a huge exponential growth in the, which is the next big thing in payments in the biometric payment sector. Now, before we understand how biometric payments work or the numbers therein, we have to understand the role of Aadhaar, which is India's foundational ID, because everything is built on Aadhaar. Now, Aadhaar is a foundational ID, a digital ID that is assigned to any individual who's living in the country for more than 6 months. It is a non-intelligent system. It cannot predict behavior or attributes or has any other data that is stored. So it's completely safe and private. It's backed by a law, and there is a purpose limitation clause. So the government very carefully monitors the use of Aadhaar, and it has to be ensured that it is used only for the purpose for which it has been collected. And the beneficiary needs to provide a consent before submitting his or her Aadhaar that this is what I'm agreeing to. Now, there are 4 kinds of authentications that are currently permitted in the system. The first and the most prominent is the biometric authentication using either the fingerprint or the iris scan. Then we have the demographic authentication using the address and other attributes of the customer provided at the time of enrollment. A way is to send an OTP, a one-time password, to the mobile number that was provided at the time of registration or enrollment. And lastly, some offline authentications have also been permitted by the amendment to the law last year in 2019, where through QR codes or XHTML files, one can conduct an offline authentication in a limited setting. These are for low risk contexts. Now, the social benefit delivery paradigm is built upon some key enablers which may have made it possible. As I mentioned, Aadhaar forms the foundation of everything that we do. As of now, about 1.26 billion Aadhaar numbers have been issued. Banking facilities are important because ultimately all money has to go into a bank account. In 2015-16, India launched the largest financial inclusion drive in the world, wherein about 400 million bank accounts were opened, taking the total up to 1.2 billion as of now. You need a robust network infrastructure. So connectivity, data, power, etc. is very important for this to run. And ultimately, mobile governance is something that we're aiming for, through which the benefits can be accessed on the beneficiaries' mobile phones. And this is, again, something that is still growing. Now, this slide represents the ecosystem for benefits delivery. The outer circle shows the regulatory or the supplier side picture, and the inner circle shows the hard number of the presence of various devices or the facilities. So there are close to 1 billion debit and credit cards available in the country, with the number largely skewed in favor of debit cards, about 850 million plus. There are 5.1 POS devices now in the country, 230,000 ATMs, and so on. Now, this is the growth you can see year on year for the benefit delivery. Now, this is only for cash schemes, wherein cash was transferred. Some of the other larger benefit delivery programs, such as the food subsidy or the fertilizer subsidy, there is no cash transfer. There is only the material that is given to the beneficiary, which has a monetary value, but we're not talking about that in this picture. And this is the non-unique beneficiary count on the right-hand side, because one beneficiary can access multiple benefits, multiple programs. Now, because this inclusion drive, the biometric payments are running on largely as an offshoot of the social benefit program, it is important to understand what the financial inclusion infrastructure is in the country. 10 years ago, we barely had 34,000 business correspondents in rural areas, which is now increased to about 550,000 across the country. Number of ATMs, number of POS devices. So there is a huge push that has been there by the government, and this is primarily the reason why these payment systems are increasing. Now, coming back to Aadhaar and how this is driving, as I had mentioned, this forms the foundation of all our benefits delivery programs. The first part pertains to identification. The second is the payments, and the last is the access of funds by the beneficiary. The beneficiary or the customer provides his or her data, and I'm talking about the social benefits as of now. The schemes store the data. There are 380 benefits schemes in the country run by the central government, which store a beneficiary's data. And once the Aadhaar is provided, it is authenticated with the UIDI, the Unique Identity Authority of India, using one of the modes that I've mentioned. And once that is done, the authentication, the beneficiary registration is complete. Then we come to the payments. Now, very interestingly, Aadhaar, apart from being an identity artifact, it is also a financial address. There is something called the National Payments Corporation of India, which has led all of these payments technologies and is the key driver of any change that we are bringing in the payments landscape in the country, in the retail payments I'm talking about. There are 700 million, more than 700 million Aadhaar numbers that are mapped to bank accounts. The NPCI maintains this mapper, which essentially maps each Aadhaar number to a bank, not to a bank account on the mapper, but to a bank. Now, once a payment instruction is received by the NPCI, it passes on that instruction to the relevant bank with the Aadhaar number, and the bank maintains the mapping at the account level in its core banking system. And upon the receipt from NPCI, it completes the transaction by debiting or crediting that particular bank account. One more thing, there are more than 1,300 participating banks through this. So almost all large banks are covered in this system. This again explains how the transactions run, and we are using the Aadhaar payments bridge as opposed to the NEFT or RTGS for completing the benefits delivery, because it assures us of the targeted individual, his or her identity. In 2019-20, about 67% of the benefits were transferred over the Aadhaar payments bridge. Lastly, once the money has reached the bank account of the beneficiary, how does he or she access it? And this is the part where we come to the benefits delivery program. Now, the beneficiary walks into the micro ATM kiosk maintained by a bank, run by a business correspondent of that particular bank. The system makes a request to the base branch, and through that system of the BC's bank to the NPCI, which maintains this mapper. The NPCI then relays this information to the UIDI, which carries out the authentication. And once the authentication is complete or rejected, the transaction information is sent back to NPCI. If it's correct, then the money is sent to the debit instructions are sent to the beneficiary's bank account, and the money is withdrawn from there and provided to the BC's bank, from where the beneficiary can receive his or her funds. If it's rejected, then of course the transaction does not go through. Now, these are some of the numbers, the statistics revolving around AEPS. Of the 5.1 million POS devices in the country, about half are on AEPS. And a reason for this is that not all banks are currently participating in the AEPS. Only about 130 banks are on this. And there are various reasons for this. Mainly, some of the smaller banks find it difficult to maintain the compliance required around AEPS, around the POS devices, which have to conform to the security and other standards provided by UIDI and by NPCI. There's a participation fee that banks need to pay up. That's also an issue that we're taking up. There have been 2.5 billion transactions since the inception. Now, the AEPS can provide for the following functionalities or facilities. You can do cash withdrawals, deposits, balance inquiry, remittances or fund transfers, and can access mini statements. Last year, we witnessed almost an 80% growth in AEPS transactions. Now, because the beneficiary base is largely rural and they do not have a complete understanding, there are a lot of frauds that can happen. Thankfully, that's not what we witnessed of late, but obviously financial frauds are there in any society, in any economy. So the limits for a transaction, a particular transaction, and a daily limit is set. These are at about $27 for a single transaction and at about $68 for a daily transaction. All these micro ATMs are interoperable. There are some issues pertaining to interchange fees and agent commissions, membership, which we are still trying to resolve, which will definitely increase the uptake of biometric payments in the country. Now, this graph, this is from RBI. The data has been compiled in a single graph, which provides for the various channels of retail banking. You can see mobile banking has increased tremendously over the past few years in India. Debit card transactions have fallen. So UPI transactions, which is run on IMPS and mobile banking, has taken some of the share, a large part of the share of the debit transactions. But AEPS transactions are increasing. So if you see, the share is still small, but it is definitely on the rise. Now, RBI and NPCI only capture off-us transactions on AEPS as of now. If we count the on-us transactions by banks, this number would be even larger. This is the value of transactions, a similar trend. The dip you see in 2020 is because of the COVID lockdown. But even in that, the only part which is growing is the AEPS transactions. And this last slide, if you see, is the share of AEPS transactions in the past few months. This is an analysis that I carried out to show how AEPS transactions or biometric transactions are increasing in the country. between November 2019 and March 2020, these transactions were about 3% in terms of value. But in this year, they've increased to 9%, which is huge. And as this graph represents, compared to the other channels of cash withdrawals, which are ATMs and some at POS terminals using debit cards, micro ATMs and APS transactions are definitely increasing as this graph shows. Lastly, these are some of the gains using Aadhaar-based DBT. This is very important for government and for other governments with whom we share these experiences. And we've been able to save about $24 billion US since this program began. So this is the last slide that I'll leave you with. I'm happy to answer any questions now. Thank you so much.